Thank you so much for getting on here with me today, both of you. Very exciting. I won't take up too much of your time. I just want to get a little bit of a feel for the event.
Yes.
So for the viewer's sake, would you mind giving me a little bit of background on the origins of the festival and how it came about?
Go on,
Yeah.
Jim.
So Junction2 is a techno and electronic music festival. It was, I think, born out of our passion for the music, and it's now it's grown from being a kind of 10,000 capacity one day event in a pretty unique location. It's underneath a large motorway bridge, or a flyover, as you might say in America. And it's the stage is quite iconic. It's quite an unusual space. There's a real mixture of this kind of stark, sort of brutal industrial concrete bridge that runs through this really beautiful park, and so underneath it you've got little meandering rivers and streams and woodland paths and that kind of thing. But then you've also got this this huge bridge, and I think there's a real contrast there that's really made the stage, that stage, particularly iconic. And it's now, and it's, well, we've done this would have been our 5th year this year. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah.
And it's grown to being 30,000 people, and I think hopefully one of the most exciting electronic music lineups in the country or Europe, and I think it's kind of finally found a place on that kind of world stage, somewhere where people want to play and punters want to come to. It's been really exciting.
I mean, it's probably worth saying that it's grown rapidly over this period, where it was 10,000 people when it launched, and in the course of 4 years, it's gone from 10,000 to 25,000. For expanding from 1 day to 2 days in its 3rd year, I believe.
Yeah.
But this year really was realistically going to be the most successful year we were going to have, because when we launched the second day for it, that was always going to be a risk, and like anything, when you're adding double the capacity to a show, you don't know quite how it's going to work, and it worked well, but it was just short of selling out, which was not unexpected. But the feedback and the results of that show for the next year to follow was really strong. The sales were strong, the talent was excited, the slightly new, different audience was introduced to the event by broadening the musical offering. This time around, we're heading for a sellout for both days. So understandably disappointing for it not to happen. One, from it simply being something we look forward to all year round, but B, really it being a culmination of all the work we put in over the last few years to get it to this point. So it still feels very positive, and that's where the digital event has come from. It's been born out of marking the event not taking place, I guess, initially, or when we did it in July the first time round, and then off the success of that, we followed up with a winter edition, a virtual edition, which is the one we're leading into this weekend.
And that's a fantastic position to be in, growing in popularity that quickly, and I'm sure that comes with its own unique set of challenges. Could you describe maybe a few of the challenges that you've discovered in throwing a completely virtual digital event?
Yeah, I mean, I guess easy to start with. We'd never done it before. So reality was, it's something me and Will were discussing in the office, as how could we mark the occasion? Not only kind of, I think, even emotionally for ourselves and the team, the letdown of having something that we worked with all year round not happening, not to mark the occasion with something seemed kind of crazy. Having made the decision to do it, we then had to really learn from scratch how to do it. It's one thing putting on a few live streams that is just a selection of artists playing. It's another thing trying to really actually engineer an event and replicate in some shape or another the feeling of an event online, which in reality is impossible. Mm-hmm. But I think pulling together all the kind of learnings we've had from why people go to events and trying to recreate a feeling of energy, experience, exploration, and I guess curation of artists, and not having one channel but multiple stages, and that's why people go to events. It was kind of difficult, and then trying to work out how we could put together the content in a way that was presented in an interesting way, and then actually getting it out there. So very much something we've learnt throughout it, and our way of doing it refined as we learnt how to deliver this. The result was far better than we'd ever expected. We were kind of expecting reasonable numbers and interest out of it, but the show on the day delivered over 3.2 million views, and which we thought was kind of just gobsmacking, really, to see that many people tuning into something. And there was a vast number of them came from the US. I think about 26% of the audience who watched it on the day was US based, and the width and breadth of the countries, I think it was about 204 countries around the world where they tuned in from different time zones. And watching the chatter online, it was amazing to see where people were logging in at what was 5 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning in their country, and because it was presented as live, it was very important for us to really kind of run it as fixed times rather than separate times for different areas, because in reality it is one event rather than a restreamer event in different countries at the correct times. So it was a real learning experience, and all those learnings we've taken away to do this again. And to do it again, one of the things we realise about it is the digital landscape is incredibly throwaway. There's so much stuff out there that people are just putting on left, right and centre, really, A, because they want to, B, because they feel the need to. And it's a lot of it is kind of just clogging up kind of airwaves in reality. And I think you need to give things a point of purpose, which is why we've done less and focused on reasons to do it, and why we're doing it. And with this new one, we were kind of undecided about it, but once we came up with a concept, which is what we're based on techno, so we're going to root it in the key cities that represent our artists, and it suddenly discussing that together gave us a reason to do it, really.
Well, and that was going to be. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
I was just going to say, I think that the thing for me is that I think electronic music, underground electronic music, has always had two things, and that's it's triumphed in the face of adversity, and there's been a challenge. If you look back to in the UK, the kind of early rave era, it was born out of some political oppression, and if you look further back into the black and gay communities and Hispanic communities, it's always been a thing about people coming together and celebrating and having a good time despite what might be going on. And I think there was a certain element of that with us as well. And with the COVID and sort of crisis, I think we really had a sense of the show must go on. And I thought we wanted to find a way of I don't think we can say replicating it, but like Paul says, find a way of marking the occasion about what we were doing. And that was the first manifestation of J2V, and I think like Paul touched on as well, we've learned a heck of a lot. But there's also the other thing that's strong in our world, in our scene, is that kind of DIY spirit and mentality. And so I think we've taken those two things and really joined them up, and that kind of we created this virtual world, and it's a very simple, deliberately very simple, stripped back kind of experience which we built in-house with our own team. There's not been a sort of a slew of kind of web developers and that kind of thing building it. We've done it ourselves, and I think that's why I think it feels really authentic. It feels very genuine. It feels very like Junction2, and we didn't want it to. This particular project, we didn't want it to be a shiny avatars and photorealistic. It's much more about the music, and the space that we've created allows the visuals and the music to take center stage. And I think that's really representative of what J2 is. It's about a community of people coming together to really celebrate and enjoy the music that we all love.
I think that's Excellently put. I think this niche, dance music, is an incredibly resilient bunch. Paul, you touched on it a little bit earlier about the 3 cities that are participating in the festival: London, Berlin, and Detroit. Can you expand a little bit more on how those locations factor into the identity of the festival?
I mean, it's very much based around, I guess, where the artist and the music and the scene, a lot of what we do is rooted in, I guess, and it's where its heritage and its story comes from. And that's kind of one of the difficult decisions around it wasn't that we discount other cities and other territories and other countries around it, because Italy's got a strong scene, Spain's got a strong scene, and lots of places do really, and lots of US cities do. But for us, the way we saw it is almost the core beginnings of the music we support, essentially, really, in its different identities. It comes from these regions, and London is an obvious one, because it's where we're based, and it'd be crazy not to represent our own city. A lot of the harder edged kind of darker music comes from Berlin and Germany, and from the clubs down there. And you got Detroit, which is obviously got a huge heritage of techno and kind of house music.
Fabulous. And there is a big VR component to the festival, which I know you both already kind of touched on a little bit. Can you just go a little bit more in depth in how that's going to factor into the experience?
I think VR maybe is a strong way to describe it. Really, it's very much. I guess the brief we gave our team while we're talking about it is, let's kind of see if we can do something a bit like Tron, I think is the way to describe it. It's because the music is stripped back, because the music is darker. It's like Will said, it's not flashy and shiny. It's a bit edgy, really. And plus, on the budgets we were working with, we were kind of limited to kind of what we could create. And it's kind of, I guess it's a desktop environment that allows you to navigate and explore, giving you the feeling of space and movement as if you're at an event, and it gives you a feeling of busyness and noise. And one of the things we added into it was there's a running chat room feature down the side of it, which is basically open to anybody saying anything, and it just runs in real time throughout the thing. And we didn't really know how it would perform, but it was actually one of the standout elements of it. In reality, it just had everyone navigating and moving around it, but in this chat room, it really replicated the kind of the pointless kind of random conversations you have at events, where people just from all over were just, because it's anonymous as well, and it's kind of easy, people were just typing in, where's the toilet, where's this, let's meet here, what about this, have you done this, many inappropriate things and many funny things just running in a stream of people, like you do at a club show, really. And that energy of the constant posts and the movement of it happening, whether you were by yourself or not, gave you a feeling that you were part of something with a lot of people. And when they spoke and said they were from different countries, it really kind of highlighted to people they were part of something that was not just them watching it on a screen.
I think that's fantastic, because just one of the things I miss most about events is just accidentally bumping into someone and striking up a random conversation with them. And I think that's something that can be lost on a lot of digital events, for sure.
I agree. I think when these events try and step it up and they incorporate it with Zoom and visuals and things, a lot of people don't want to be seen. They're in their houses, they're in their lounges. It's a kind of window into their privacy in reality, I think. But with it being non-visual and you're just talking, it's very easy just to engage and talk and respond and appear and disappear, which I think created a very safe and easy environment for people just to kind of let loose, I guess.
And Will, were you going to chime in? I'm sorry if I cut you off.
That's fine, no problem at all. I think Paul covered it.
Okay, fantastic. So I was reading that there's a gaming component to the festival as well. Could you give me some information about that?
So as a company, I think one of the things we trying to explore and understand is where audiences come from for these kind of events. And on one side there is a replacement for events and the clubbers and the festival goers who can't go. But on the other side, something that kind of dawned on us as we were putting it together was there's a whole landscape of people out there who already exist in a digital world, and that is their landscape, and they're very used to doing it. And take away age restrictions, suddenly something is accessible to everybody, and a big part of that is obviously kind of gaming, really, and it is the gaming audience and the gamers who really are bigger than the music audience by manyfold in reality. But it's how do you engage with them? And I think we were trying to find a way that would allow us to interact and engage with a gaming audience, or present it and introduce it to them, but in an authentic way. And if we were saying we were looking at doing something that had a gamified experience, but there's no real gaming element to it or attached to a real game, it kind of feels like you're just playing lip service, really. So that's kind of where it was born from, and it kind of factors into what we see as being a long-term strategy. Where what was going to be a one-off event, it quite quickly came to our realization that actually, whether events are happening or not happening, there is definitely a landscape and interested people out there who would go to things on a digital capacity. And so it means we can show off our events as the long-term plan happening physically and digitally at the same time. So it just allows us to kind of cross two different worlds, I guess.
Fantastic. Would you mind, for viewers, describing how they can tune in to the event? Facebook, YouTube, Twitch is a massive channel for it. They're realistically the main drivers for the audiences. I mean,
go to our website, I would say, is the best leap-off point in lots of ways.
Yes, yeah. If they go to the website, like Will just pointed out, we created something called a hub, which is one of our learnings from before, from the last event, is having all the stages presented at the same time, and people then can click and kind of focus on independent stages, or they can watch all the feeds at the same in one go.
And for anyone who doesn't have it, the URL's junction2.london.
Perfect.
Excellent marketing, William.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Paul, you mentioned earlier that the space right now for digital events is so saturated with just a lot of nonsense. What do you feel like your team is doing right that's generating so much buzz?
I don't think it's about what we're doing right opposed to other people. I think it's about just owning and being confident in I guess what you have and how it's presented, and trying to make it look different, feel different, be able to tell a story about it and a purpose for it happening. Because like I think, you no matter what it is you're doing, you have to market it and you have to sell it and you have to get people to engage with it. I think it's a lot easier in one way to market someone to buy a physical ticket than it is to market to an audience where it's whether they're either they're at home or they're not, and if they are and it's convenient, they'll watch it. So the only way you're going to make someone do that is to give it a story leading into it. And I guess a lot of the time what we focus on is putting together an event concept that we know we can tell over 6 to 8 weeks, 12 weeks, explain to it what's the point of it, why it's happening, and give it a purpose and a reason why people should attend it.
I think as well that aside from the sort of marketing side of things, we're ultimately, even though we're a bit older these days, we're all ravers and we all like to party. And I think what we've spent a lot of our time on these projects doing is really thinking deeply about, rather than just sort of putting a stream up, is thinking about what other ingredients go into to make a great event. And so it's the extra little touches. So the world that we've created, and then the idea that you can buy a kind of a festival box, and these black boxes are really nicely branded, so it creates that kind of sense of occasion. And when it arrives a few days before the show, it's got in it alcohol mixers, some so the kind of recipes for the various cocktails that you can drink. So that within that event, you're then kind of, we're bringing a certain element of the virtual world is turning up and being present at your house, and so we've really tried to blur the lines and find ways of connecting the virtual world to the real world to create a sense of occasion, and to think about what we as kind of electronic music fans would want. It's not as simple as just putting some music on the internet, and because I think that you can do that if you want that. I mean, you can go on YouTube and there's a million DJ sets you can stream. So what's the difference between coming to participate in an event? So I think it's that unpacking of things and trying to work out what the other bits are important and what's exciting, and what would I want to do at home with my friends, and creating that kind of atmosphere for people. I think that's such a big part of what we've done.
I think Will's right. It's that, I mean, I guess sense of occasion really is. Buy a ticket to an event, you plan for weeks what you're going to wear, where you're going to meet, where you're going to have your drinks, what you're going to do. I mean, being at home, what are you planning? When shall I go downstairs and turn
on my laptop?
Yeah. When shall I put my headphones on? So
shall I plug it in, or am I just going to go crazy and just run off the battery?
Shall I get out of my pajamas today or not? And I think Will's right. It's by crossing over the two, it's creating the feeling of it's an event, and so there's some excitement behind it.
It's not in the feeling, it's creating an event. I think it's actually making it an event, and so much of what we do is about building up energy, and then the event is the release or the coming together of all that energy. And so it's building excitement, it's building anticipation, and then it's getting together with your friends, enjoying music, and having a sort of a shared release of energy of some sort. I think that's so much of what we do.
Socially,
yeah, obviously not too close.
What did you say, Paul?
I said socially distanced, obviously.
Oh, yes. So you can bring the festival to them a little bit.
Exactly. And I think it's just making sure that we just really tried to go the extra mile rather than just delivering a stream. And I think that's why it's been successful and why people have been excited by it. And it's like Paul said, the energy you get from the rolling comments and people interacting and walking around from stage to stage and chatting to other people is exciting.
Awesome. Any other exciting tidbits, or maybe something I overlooked that you didn't get a chance to speak on that you think is really important for people to know?
What time is it starting, Paul?
6 p.m, I think.
6 p.m. in UK time.
Yeah, I think it's 6 hours long. I mean, all from my perspective is, I guess, touching on, for us, this is very much going to form a long-term part of what we do as events promoters. And so whether it is Junction2 virtual or it is other concepts we're working on, which are more fully engaged in the kind of VR immersive space, it's kind of a part of a long-term plan of how we work with events and create different content and different ways for people to have fun, I guess.
I think that's really important because no one knows what the world is going to look like in 6 months. So at least now you have this set up in your repertoire going forward.
It's going to be flat, I can assure you. 6 months, the world will be flat again. Just don't fall off the edge.
Won't forget that.